Okay, so you've been checking out those RoleCatcher resources, huh? Stonemasonry. Got to be something about working with your hands, right? Building something that lasts.
Yeah, it's
I
fascinating.
get it. Ever walk past like an incredible stone building and just think, how'd they even do that?
Right.
This
Yeah.
deep dive is for you.
And you know what's wild? It's like more relevant than ever.
Really?
You'd think, right, technology, ancient craft, one would replace the other,
Yeah.
but it's more like they've met at this like crossroads.
Interesting.
Yeah, we've got CNC carving now, but that hasn't replaced, actually having skilled hands on those chisels, hammers, all that.
Right, like the RoleCatcher guide mentions beating the automated recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
What does that even mean?
It's huge. So it's not enough to just be amazing with a chisel. You have to be just as good at basically like crafting your digital profile,
Oh, interesting.
making sure your skills, they stand out. But to AI,
To the algorithm.
right, the gatekeeper.
Huh?
Oh, which brings us to a really important point about this whole thing. Understanding what skills a stonemason actually needs.
Okay.
RoleCatcher Guide's really big on this. Reading blueprints, knowing how to pick the right stone for the job, even like on-the-spot problem-solving, technical stuff. It's as much thinking as it is physical.
Wow, so it's a mental workout too. You're not just shaping stone, you're shaping like solutions.
Exactly. And that comes across really clearly when they're describing the career path, which is more, I don't know, formalized than people might think.
Okay.
It's like apprentice, journeyman, all the way to master stonemason, which I gotta admit
It's got a good ring to it.
has a nice ring to it.
Yeah. So what does that path actually look like to get there? Is it all just about those hand tools?
Well, it starts there, of course. As an apprentice, you're basically learning by doing. You're assisting the more experienced stonemasons, mastering those traditional techniques, chisels, hammers, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But what's interesting, each stage isn't just about like more tools, more skills. It's about leadership, communication, even mentoring.
So you start by learning from a master, then you become a master yourself.
Yeah.
Passing it down. Man, talk about job satisfaction too.
Sure.
To see the results, like that's going to outlast you.
Absolutely.
That's going to be rewarding.
It is. Although the RoleCatcher Guide, they keep it real too. They talk about the downsides.
Oh yeah, like what?
It's physically demanding. There are hazards. And it can be competitive, which brings us back to that whole beating the recruiter thing. Like, it's a real thing.
Yeah, that really stuck with me from the guide. Can you unpack that a little more?
Yeah, so imagine this. You've spent years, right, honing your craft. You've got this impressive portfolio. But then your application, it just gets, like, filtered out
By a computer?
by an algorithm.
Wow.
Because you didn't use the right keywords or something.
I know.
It's like this whole other layer of, you're not just competing with other people, you're competing with the system.
Wow. So you've got to be a craftsman of your online presence too.
Exactly. And that's where RoleCatcher gives some really interesting advice, actually.
Okay.
It's not just about listing every tool you've touched.
Right.
It's about crafting a narrative,
Yeah.
highlighting the things that algorithms, they struggle with, like the human element.
Okay, so what are some examples of that? What should someone highlight if they want to stand out, especially with these robots doing the hiring?
Well, they talk about things like, problem solving, adaptability, creativity, the kind of stuff you get from years of actually doing it. Like you see a hunk of rock, you know what it can become.
Yeah.
Algorithms, they can't measure that. You can't sum that up on a resume.
It's like they say. They don't build them like they used to, but in this case they do, and it's like that's what makes it valuable.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just the technical stuff. The guide talks about communication, working with others, clients even. Because remember, a lot of this stonemasonry, it's unique projects.
Oh, yeah.
You're not just pumping out like widgets. Could be restoring a historic building or working one-on-one with some architect on their crazy design.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a sculpture for someone's garden even. Who knows?
Okay, so you got to be able to talk to people, like get their vision and make it stone.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But the thing that threw me was they mentioned networking in the guide. And I'm like, shit. It's the age of online portfolios, LinkedIn, all that. Isn't that how it's done now?
And that's where it gets interesting because those tools, yeah, they're important, especially showing off your work.
Right.
But this is still a field where knowing people matters. Think about it. You're going to hire someone to make something for you, something that'll be around a long time, and you'd want a recommendation, right?
That's a good point.
See it yourself, what they can do.
It's like old school business built on trust, reputation.
There you go. And that's what the guide stresses. Go to events, join those guilds, those associations, even just, chatting with other people on the job sites. It's about relationships, not just like a contact list.
So it's almost like the craft itself, the fact that it's something real unique.
Yeah.
That's a form of networking.
Absolutely. Each piece is like its own advertisement. And because you often work with other trades designers, contractors, what have you, those connections, they lead to more work.
It's weird, right? We're talking about something ancient, but it fits into this tech world. Old tools, new tools, AI portfolios.
That's what's so cool about it. And we haven't even touched on the art of it all.
Yeah.
We've been in the technical weeds, but RoleCatcher talks about the creative side too.
Like I was picturing all the carvings.
Yeah.
Sculptures. Maybe even those like fancy fountains you see in gardens.
Yeah.
You're limited by what you can dream up, really, and what you can do with the tools.
Exactly. And while the guide focuses on construction, restoration, there's a whole other world of just pure artistry. Some people, that's all they do. Sculptures, monuments, even little details for furniture, jewelry, you name it.
Wow. So it's not just hands, it's an eye for it. Design.
It is. It's raw material turned into something that's both useful and beautiful.
I like that.
And that's where the old meets new again. Yeah, we've got the hand tools, been around forever, but you've also got diamond-tipped chisels now, computer programs for design.
Blending it all together. Speaking of which, let's loop back to standing out, making yourself memorable. The guide had some stuff on that, right? Especially now, when it feels like everyone's competing for the same gigs.
Totally. And they highlighted something that I think is so important, whether you're into stone or anything else.
Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah.
What's the secret? What makes you stand out to those AI things, especially?
They said to lean into what makes you you. The stuff that can't be copied easily, can't be automated, which is kind of what stonemasonry is all about. It's unique. It's the mark of the person who made it.
You're carving out your own space, kind of.
Exactly. And that's powerful when everything's getting so, same. People want what's real, handmade, something with skill behind it, and passion.
Not just a bunch of skills on a list, but actually using them to say something, to be you.
You got it. And that's what makes this kind of career so interesting. It's not just a job. It's like how you live. It's tough. It makes you think. It connects you to history. And you leave something behind.
Leave your mark, literally.
And that's a good question to ask yourself if you're thinking about this. What kind of mark do you want to leave?
Ooh, that's deep.
Mm-hmm.
We've covered a lot. From chisels to, like, algorithms to art.
We have.
But before we go too far, I do want to circle back to the interview part.
Oh, wait. Yeah.
Because that's where the rubber meets the road. Right?
Yeah.
What did guide say about that? Okay, give us the rundown. How do you nail a stonemasonry interview?
Well, the guide was big on this. Let your passion show. You're not just there for a job, right?
Right. You want to work with your hands, build something amazing, something that'll last. That's got to come across.
So you're selling them on you, not just like checking boxes.
Totally. And a good way to do that, the guide said, talk about your own connection to this. Like what got you into it? A building you saw. You always liked working with, I don't know, your hands, natural stuff.
So it's like there's a story there. Not just skills, but why those skills matter to you.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to get specific either. Talk about projects, things you figured out, even tools you like using, that kind of thing.
Okay, so personality, experience.
Yeah.
You're giving them the full picture. What about the actual, technical stuff? Do they make you carve something on the spot to prove it?
Probably not. But they are going to want to know you know your stuff. Like the guide said, brush up on the different kinds of stone.
Makes sense.
What they're good for, how to use them.
Right. Don't want to mix up your granite and limestone.
Exactly. And be ready to talk about tools, techniques, how you solve problems on a job, that kind of thing.
Show, don't tell, but for rocks. That's it. Oh, and this is smart. The guide mentioned bringing a portfolio.
Oh, interesting. Like of your work.
Yeah. Now, not like hauling in giant sculptures necessarily.
Would be a bit much.
But photos, sketches, even those 3D models if you're into the computer side of things. Just something visual.
So they can see it.
Exactly. Makes it real. And, going back to that standing out thing, this isn't just for stonemasons,
Right.
Anyone looking for work. In this whole digital world with profiles and algorithms showing the human side of yourself, that makes a difference.
It's like you're reminding them there's a person there, not just another application.
There you go. And those stories, that passion, it cuts through all that noise. People remember it.
So for anyone listening, if you're feeling like lost in the shuffle of it all,
Yeah.
remember what we've talked about. Your skills, what you love, your story. Tell it. Someone's got to be listening.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, I think we've chiseled away at this topic pretty good.
We've covered a lot.
From the tools to the tech to the art of it all.
It's amazing, really. This old craft, still going strong.
It is. So if you're even a little intrigued, check out those RoleCatcher resources. Maybe there's a stonemason inside you just waiting to get out.
You never know.
That's right. Until next time, everybody, keep learning, keep exploring, keep diving deep.
See you next time.
And hey, sometimes the most rewarding paths are the ones less traveled, you know?
Yeah.
The ones where you leave your mark,
Yeah.
one stone at a time.